business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.
So it's now my pleasure to call on Her Excellency Madam Nardos Bekele, the CEO of the African Union Development Agency, or also known as our fearless leader, to come and give her opening keynote remarks. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's so wonderful to be here. The Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Raila Odinga, it's so wonderful to see you here in your capacity as the Special Envoy for Infrastructure for the AU. It's so wonderful because we've had the opportunity of working together in Kenya in 2 occasions, and for me to have this opportunity to be partnering with you is a great pleasure, and welcome. Dr. Hubert Danso, the dynamite, and I always say that in our work there are those that are working to earn their living, and there are those that are working with passion to make a difference, and you are one of them, and I'm so happy to be associated with your work. All those that are here partners, those that are here and those in absentia, I would like to greet you and to salute you, especially the NDC partnership, the investment leaders, and I would say all protocols observed. Good morning to you. On behalf of the African Union Development Agency, NEPAD, I am honored to welcome you to this very important meeting and to give opening remarks to the COP27 Africa NDC Investment Summit and Awards. Given the scale and size of our 3 trillion climate financing opportunities by 2030, we are delighted to co-host this timely African NDC Investment Summit and Awards and present our COP27 African Green Infrastructure Investment Project. Awards ceremonies symbolize moments where we stop and reflect and celebrate the courage, commitment, and sacrifice of others. One may think of award ceremonies as a finish line in the race towards a goal. However, I believe that award ceremonies are yet another starting line, a call to demonstrate even more courage and commitment, and even more sacrifice in order to make good on our promises and in order to bridge our ambition with action. I invite you all to reflect on the wise words of Rabbi Hillel. If I am not for myself, who am I? When I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? There is no plan B. There is no planet B. This is it. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone present in this room is aware that there is great opportunity before us to mobilize the global institutional infrastructure investment community to translate, de-risk, and mitigate long-term green infrastructure and NDC projects in order to achieve competitive, risk-adjusted returns for mutual rewards. The African Union 5% institutional infrastructure investment agenda, led by the Continental Business Network and endorsed by African Union heads of state, is recognized as a key private capital engagement strategy by the African Presidential Infrastructure Champion Initiative. This 5% agenda is our African asset. Is our African Asset Owners Partnership Compact with African Union heads of state to increase investment allocations to infrastructure to 5% of assets under management under a new, more aligned institutional investor public-private partnership framework similar to that used extensively by Canadian and Australian pension funds very successfully as global infrastructure investors. As stated last year at COP26, we are delighted to be launching the model law on institutional investor public partnership, in brief IIPP, after extensive consultations with domestic and global investors, governments, businesses, development finance partners, project developers, the blended finance community, foundations, and philanthropists. It's a key framework for the 5% agenda and climate investment mobilization mechanism for the Paris Agreement, SDG 17, and Agenda 2063 climate financing goals. The model law, with its focus on mobilizing capital at scale and being able to deploy that capital at speed, complements AUDA-NEPAD's climate investment strategy, driven through the African Green Infrastructure Investment Bank, as our African Union convened African and global institutional investor-led platform. We are grateful for the commitment and insights and leadership from the prestigious African Green Infrastructure Investment Bank, the advisory board, our own Continental Business Network, and many of you in the room, guiding us on optimal partnerships to mobilize capital at scale, and for that capital to be deployed at speed through innovative institutional investor-public partnerships. Ladies and gentlemen, we are under no illusion about the competitive and complex nature of mobilizing finance at the scale and within the time frame the climate science requires. Africa is a strategic continent to the growing global green industrial economy, the global transition and delivery of global climate goals. If Africa does not meet its climate goals, the world will not meet its climate goals. Therefore, it's also important for us not to understate Africa's abundant and incredibly valuable asset base through our highly sought natural capital, the sun, the wind, the hydro, estimated to be worth 4.6 trillion in terms of carbon credit headroom between now and 2030. Our green hydrogen potential, which represents a great investment for long-term investors. Our superior endowment of key mineral resources critical for the green technologies that will drive the global transition, along with our land and young tech-savvy human capital that will represent 50% of the world's youth by the end of the century. All of this means that Africa's investment case is the investment opportunity of our generation. Ladies and gentlemen, Africa's presidency of COP27 is a watershed moment for the domestic and global investment community alike. Investor leadership is at the forefront of the climate solution and not only holds the 200 trillion pool of capital, but also the keys and autonomy to save our planet. We need to make this a year of unprecedented implementation where we co-create and implement mutually rewarding future fit business models and institutional investor-public partnerships to make mobilizing private capital at scale for Africa's NDCs, the expectation, not the exception. We are therefore proud to co-host the inaugural African NDC Investment Awards, designed to inspire speedy implementation and greater ambition across all NDCs. We look forward to continuing to find innovative and equitable pathways to forge institutional investor-public partnership with each of your institutions for mutual benefit as we transition with urgency to our shared low-carbon future. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I would like to end as I began, with the words of Rabbi Hillel. If I am not for myself, who am I? Where I am only for myself, when I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, then when? Indeed, if not now, then when? I thank you.
Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.